Hey y'all, so the other day I posted a reel of me doing my makeup and a bunch of you reached out to me asking me about the products I use. So I figured instead of answering one by one, I will hop up here and break it all down for you. I'm going to keep it simple, going to keep it just about the products, nothing too fancy, so let's get into it. If you haven't already, I advise that you get pen and paper so that you can write some of these products down or put them in your notes app inside of your phone. Before I apply any makeup, I always make sure my skin is cleansed really well and moisturized. I'm going to be talking about each product in the order that I apply. So first, I'm going to go into brows. I use the NYX pencil and the Lift and Snatch pen. You can use brunette or espresso. Espresso is the deepest shade, followed by brunette. So I always go in and I fill in my brow, give them a shape, and then I follow with this Lift and Snatch tint pen. This is a game changer. Next up is the concealer that you would use to carve out underneath your brow. I use L'Oreal Paris Infallible Wear Concealer. It comes in several different shades. You want to use one that is 1 to 2 shades lighter than your complexion. After you carve out your brow with your concealer, you want to set it with the powder. I used Airspun and the shade Naturally Neutral. It's a translucent powder and it practically works for anyone. So just remember, anytime you apply a liquid, you always want to follow behind and set it with the powder. Don't want to use too much of this. I use a small fluffy brush, dip it in, tap off the excess, and then I just dab it lightly just to set that concealer a little bit so it won't move. That's the purpose of it. So we've done the brows. We've carved out the brows with the concealer and set the concealer with the Airspun powder. Next, I went in with the Juvia's Warrior palette for my eyeshadow, and I used the two browns here. You could pick and choose. This is a neutral palette. Once again, it's good for basically anyone. After I do part one of my eyes, and I do say part one because after you do everything, you're going to go back, but we'll see later on in the video. So after part one of my eyes, I went in with the primer all over my face. I used the Milk Hydro Primer. It's a very hydrating primer. You can use it if you're dry or if you're oily, or a combination. It works for everyone. I do have combination skin, so I use this. However, in my T-zone area, I'm a little oily, so that's where I went in and used the Matte Putty Primer. This is a mattifying primer. It's really good. You just don't want to use too much of it, and you only want to use it in the spots that you tend to get more oily and shiny. Under eye concealer. Sometimes I use foundation first. Other times I use concealer first. It just depends on the day. However, I use the concealer first in the video, so that's what I'm going to get into. And I use the e.l.f. Hydrating Concealer. It's really good for under eye because it's a hydrating concealer. Doesn't leave you dry. Gives a full coverage. Not too much. Beginner friendly. The foundation I used was from MAC. It's the Studio Fix Fluid. I don't have any beef with MAC. I'm still a MAC girl. I love it. Some people says it does whatever to their skin. However, I feel that it's all in the skin prep. So this is what I use. However, I am going to mention a second foundation that I use whenever I don't use the MAC Studio Fix, which is the Milani. It has it's a concealer and a perfecting. It's a foundation and concealer 2-in-1. I can't leave out the beauty blender. I know it's not a product, it's a tool. However, I can't leave this out because it's very important that you have a beauty blender so that you can blend out the edges so everything won't look too harsh. Next up is powder. We just apply concealer, we just apply foundation. The powder that I use to set my under eye is the Kokie Professional Translucent Powder. This came in one of my Ipsy bags. Not sure where you can purchase it from. However, I'm sure you can Google it and it'll show up. But this is a really good setting powder for under eye. For my face, I use the Sacha Buttercup Setting Powder. I use the big brush. I never like to use too much. It gives like a little cakey finish. I'm not into that. I use a big brush, dip it in, tap it off, and then I just go all over my face with it, as you see me do in the video. I did skip one thing, forgive me. Right before the powder, I went in with the contour. This contour stick is from Clinique in the shade Curvious Clove. I don't use many products from Clinique. However, this foundation stick is so good for contouring. I just love the shape of it. You can just get in wherever you need to be, right in the nose area, wherever. I've been using this contour stick for a long foundation stick as my contour stick for a long time. To set my contouring in the cheek area and on my forehead, I went in with the Morphe Bronzer. It's bronzer plus contour. It's really good. You just want to go in with the light hand because it is very pigmented. However, it definitely gets the job done. I love it. So at this point, I'm basically finished with my face area for the most part. After you put all your powder, your contour, everything on, you want to go in with this MAC Studio Fix Plus just so you can melt everything together. Just spray this all over your face. Get it good and wet for the most part, and then let it dry down a little bit. It helps everything to come together. Trust me, after you use all those powders, you want everything to come together. And when you apply this and it dries down, it gives it a whole new look. And I love it. Next, I go in with my blush. I use the Morphe palette. This is the Cool Pro 8C palette. This is another one that's good for all different skin tones. It has the more deeper shades as well as the rosy peachy shades. Next is part 2 of my eyes. I went in with the Kiss lashes. To each its own, whatever your preference is, just find a good lash that fits you. Then I use the e.l.f. pencil. This is a two-sided pencil. It has a smoky gray color over here, and then it's like a charcoal black. I only used the black color, and I went underneath my liner here. After I did that, I went back in with this palette. I mixed the two colors here. If I would have just used that brown color, it would have been a little too dark. So I mixed the two here, used a small smudge brush, and I went up underneath that liner and smudged the two shadows out. Just to give like a little shadow effect, so you won't just have a harsh black liner. You always, or not always, but it is good to use an eyeshadow after you apply the liner, just to take the harshness away. For my bottom lashes, I use the Maybelline Rocket Express. It's a lot of mascaras out here. However, this is the one that I'm using now. It gets the job done. You can get this at the local drugstore, Walmart, Ulta, wherever. You're going to find this in several different stores. So it's the Maybelline Rocket Express. For the highlighter, I use the Morphe Bretman Rock palette, Babe in Paradise. I'm not even sure if you can still get this palette. I had it for a while. However, Morphe does have other good highlighter palettes that you can get. The lip combo that I used, both products were from MAC. I used the Velvet Teddy Lip and Night Moth Lip Pencil. This has like a more warm reddish tone. You can also use Chestnut. That's another good one. However, if you want a reddish tone, you can use Night Moth. If you want a more neutral, cool tone, you can use the Chestnut. It's the next day. I went in to edit my videos this morning, and what did I discover? The last few clips that I did were deleted. I'm not sure how that happened. Y'all, I was finished. I was done, ready to edit my video and give it to y'all. But things happened, so I'm back with the last remaining part. To add the finishing touch, I went in with Morphe's Glamour Bronze in the color Phantom. It gives off a reddish tone. I went around the perimeter of my face just to add some color. If you don't want that reddish tint, you can use Big Shot as well. This is more neutral. Last but not least, I set my face using two setting sprays. The first one is Morphe's Luminous Spray. I do that. I love the finish of it. It gives like a glossy type of shimmer. Then I follow behind it with the Urban Decay All Nighter Spray. I don't use as much of this. However, I go over my face probably with 2, 3, maybe 4 sprays. I like this one because it holds really good. Like, you really don't have to worry about your makeup moving throughout the day whenever you use this. Alright, y'all. So that's everything I use. I hope it was helpful. If you have any other questions, please feel free to drop them in the comment section, or you can send me a message. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.